Agrippina. 4 companies of Blood Angels answered the call to defend the Cadian Gate, arriving toward the middle of the conflict. A significant force of Blood Angels immediately fell upon the Chaos Hordes, assaulting the world of Agrippina. And they sought out the leader of the attacking forces, the notorious Chaos Champion of Khorne, Kosalok the Forsworn, and his warband, and his World Eaters warband, the Forsworn. In an epic confrontation linked to the mythic conflict between the Blood Angels Primarch Sanguinius and the mighty Bloodthirster Kabandaha, at the closing of the Ultimate Gate during the height of the Horus Heresy at the Battle of Terra, the Blood Angels took the fight directly to the enemy. Kosalax, fully aware that his bodyguard was no match for the frenzied sons of Sanguinius, called upon the slavering demons of Khorne for aid. The summoning rite was an act of wanton traitorous carnage, as the warlord ordered his World Eaters to sacrifice the lives of their Chaos Cultist allies in order to gain the favor of the Blood God. Uncounted thousands were slaughtered in mere solar hours, their blood flowing in rivers through the corridors of Agrippina's primary hive city, and cascading from ventilation grills as waterfalls of gore. The sacrifice had the desired result, as the first of the Blood Angels' veteran assault squads screamed into battle, a blasphemous avatar of the Blood God, another bloodthirster, who ripped his way through the skin of reality to confront the sons of Sanguinius. The first Blood Angels to meet the greater demon were torn limb from limb, the beast devouring their surrendered bodies as a taunt to their battle brothers. The remaining Space Marines were sent into paroxysms of rage at such desecration, and threw themselves at the demon with no thought for their own safety. At the height of the battle, the sanguinary high priest Numitor confronted the demon and dealt it a blow that stunned it for a brief moment. Seizing the advantage, the brothers of the Death Company leapt upon his back, but the demon recovered and severed the high priest's arm with a crack of his long whip, not lip, that would have been weird. The priest was holding one of the sacred chapter relics known as the Blood Chalice, which bore an infinitesimal amount of the blood of the chapter's Primarch, and the blessed liquid was spilled across the tarnished paving. At that moment, a deadly still overcame the scene, as the Blood Angels were momentarily shocked beyond action at the sight of their Primarch's sacred blood seeping into the ground. Then, the silence was broken, as Numitor staggered to his feet and bellowed the words of the rite of exsanguination. The assembled brethren of the Death Company were overcome with visions of their last time their Primarch's blood had been split by a servant of Chaos, when Sanguinius had fallen at the hands of the arch-traitor Horus. The Demon Company went berserk. They hacked down the Bloodthirster in a savage, rage-fueled frenzy, oblivious to the fact that it dragged half their number down with it, before turning their hatred upon the warband of Kosalax, the Forsworn. The World Eaters were expelled from Agrippina at great cost to the Blood Angels, though the annals of the chapter's history will celebrate the casting out of the greater demon. The Chaos Champion Kosalax was not found at the Hive City, and the sanguinary High Priest Numitor vowed to hunt him down, no matter the cost. Diamor Campaign. The Blood Angels often hurled themselves into the Imperium's greatest and most terrible wars, fighting with a dynamism and determination that leaves even their brother Space Marines in awe. Of late, they have found themselves stretched thinner than ever, fighting simultaneously in the Third War for Armageddon, in actions around the Eye of Terror, and against the onrushing horror of High Fleet Leviathan. It was on the shield worlds of Cryptus that Commander Dante and many of his finest battle brothers faced the horrors of the Cryptoid Tendril. The splinter feet of High Fleet Leviathan was headed straight for the Blood Angels' home world of Baal, and its advance had to be stopped. The Blood Angels prevailed against the Xenos foes, yet Baal was still at strike. Dante's force made all speed to the warp to return and bolster the defenses of the Blood Angels' chapter planet, but they were still many solar weeks distant when the word reached them from High Chaplain Astorath the Grim. A new threat had emerged in the Diamor system, an invasion by the armies of Chaos that could undermine the defenses of the Cadian Gate if it were allowed to succeed. Already the High Chaplain was en route at the head of the Blood Angels' 5th Company, but greater strength would be required to defeat the traitorous foe. With a heavy heart, Commander Dante diverted much of his own force, knowing that every warrior spent away was another who could not defend Baal. Yet they were the Blood Angels. They could do no less. Dante pressed on towards Baal with a little more than an honor guard at his side, while the rest of his warriors turned their voidcraft and made for the Diamor system. The tides of the warp proved fickle. The warship of the Blood Angels' 1st and 2nd Companies made up considerable time on Astorath and his 5th Company warriors, and translated into the Diamor system within only solar minutes of their brothers. It was almost as though some other agency wished to see them burst simultaneously into real space. The momentary delay proved crucial, for it was all that stood between First Captain Carolan's forces and sudden damnation. As the First Captain established contact with the 5th Company's vessel, Death Company Chaplain Diamor informed him of their plight. As the Blood Angels' vessel translated in system, they were suddenly enveloped by a severe psychic attack. It was a warp sorcery of some kind that engulfed the Blood Angels' void ships like a storm. But worse were its effects upon the minds of all on board. The storm inflicted visions of the sort every Blood Angel had hoped to never see. The malefic sorcery struck at the chapter's genetic curse. It unleashed the Black Rage. Though exact numbers remained uncertain, it appeared that almost the entirety of the 5th Company had been affected. There was a moment's pause at Carolan's digesting this terrible news. The Black Rage. All Blood Angels dreaded its touch, but to have it forced upon them by some artifice of the foe, it was a violation of the highest order. Lord Astorath and then Company Chaplain Diamor, the other chaplains on board and their librarians, all those with psychic training or psychic defenses had survived. The rest had fallen to the curse. The mortal helots who made up the warship's crew had cloistered themselves in terror, with some having been slain by the affected battle brothers. It was sheer bedlam aboard the vessels of the 5th Company. First Captain Carolan immediately dispatched the chaplains of both the 1st and 2nd Companies, as well as the Sanguinary Guard, to aid the ill-guarded survivors and bring their fallen under control in an attempt to restore their ships to order. Vengeance and Death. After they brought their fallen brethren under control and determined the wider strategic situation in the system, the Blood Angels wasted no time in launching their attack. They could not do so quickly enough, for already it seemed as though the enemy's plans were well advanced. Crimson Slaughter warbands were present at all the primary Adeptus Mechanicus hubs. Enemy forces were heavily investing the north and south hemispheres of the world of Amatel as expected, concentrated around the multiple dig sites. At Hub Beta Secundus, the Death Company dropped in 2 waves. Chaplain Diamor and his brothers came down well within the Mechanicus complex, landing between the advanced elements of the Crimson Slaughter and their prize. The Crimson Slaughter has struck at 5 major concentrations of Mechanicum forces on the planet. The 5 zones were given separate war zone designation by the Crimson Slaughter: carnage, cruelty, hatred, malice, and perdition. Chaos Lord Kron, the Relentless, himself led the Chaos advance in Warzone Carnage. Meanwhile, Astorath and Lemartes lead the main force of the Death Company against the outer edge of the dig site's defenses, seeking to encircle in a construction ring of carnage. The Crimson Slaughter soon found themselves trapped against the defense lines they had so recently overrun. The devastation wrought by the Death Company was breathtaking. The Crimson Slaughter were pushed back on every front, forced to huddle amongst the wreckage defenses of Beta Secundus' outskirts. Many of the traitors were becoming slow and clumsy, burdened by uncontrollable mutation and shuddering with warp energies that were causing them to literally burst into flames. The Crimson Slaughter attack had lost all momentum. It was fragmenting by the solar second, caught from both sides by Death Company and Mechanicus forces. Diamor proudly noted that his Death Company warriors had fought with magnificent strength and courage, despite their terrible affliction. Though the enemy had thrown everything at them, from brass-sinewed demon engines to disgusting warpcraft, still Diamor's warriors had prevailed. The Blood Angels continued to press their attack, intent on killing every last traitor present on Amatel. The defense of Amatel. Leading elements consisting of the 1st, 2nd, and the afflicted 5th companies, Astrorath, the Grim, and Lemartes, put the traitor forces to flight. The arrival of the Blood Angels had changed the tides of war upon Amatel, and made possible a concentrated counteroffensive on every front. Moreover, the attack by the Death Company upon Hub Beta Secundus, had seen Cranor the Relentless and his elite guard hurled back in disarray. For a time, it looked as though the war was turning resoundingly in the Imperium's favor. When the Chaos response came, however, it proved unexpectedly devastating. The true architect behind the traitor's attack, the Chaos Lord Soroffax of the Black Legion, had planned for this inevitable outcome. As he continued to enacting a dark ritual, a large World Eater's murder fleet arrived in System, led by the infamous berserker Karn the Betrayer. This conglomeration of World Eater warbands was a chronate force of prodigious size, known as the Butcher Horde, led by the indomitable might of the Betrayer himself. Karn's forces, led by the Berserk Lords Korbadash and Vraka, launched an immediate Dreadclaw drop pod assault on Amatel. Soon, Karn himself appeared at the vanguard of the murderous horde, slaying Imperial forces with unimaginable brutality. But the Butcher Horde faced fierce resistance, as the might of the Death Company met with the World Eaters head-on. The favorite of Khorne dueled Death Company chaplain Diamor, but was led into an ambush by an Imperial River-class Titan of the Legio Metallica. This attack marked the beginning of a counter-offensive by the Loyalist Titan Legion, which decimated the traitor's forces. But this merely forestalled the traitor's advance, as their sheer numbers soon began to overwhelm the Blood Angels' forces. Yet the excerpt leadership of Astrorath and Death Company chaplain Diamor restored some order to the afflicted brothers' ranks. Spearheaded by the furious chaplain Lemartes, the Death Company then countercharged their enemies, dictating the shape of the battle rather than waiting to be overwhelmed. It was a daring move, and one that slowed the coordinated advance. Yet soon enough, the massively outnumbered Blood Angels sustained appalling casualties. Over 19% of the Death Company were slain by the time multiple God engines of the Legio Metallica were able to reach the engagement area. The thunderous advance of the Titans drove the coordinate forces back and fractured their cohesion, providing time for Astrorath and Lemartes to extract the last remnants of their forces. Chaplain Diamor was born from the battlefield by Astrorath himself, hacked and mangled by Karn the Betrayer. The loss of the Death Company brothers was acceptable, for it had always been their destiny to perish in selfless battle, and they had sold themselves as dearly as they could. Astrorath would not allow Diamor to perish, however, for a Death Company chaplain was amongst the most accomplished of his order. Hex Infernium. In the wake of the Titans' attack, the surviving Coronate warband scattered away from Hub Beta Secundus, marauding at will across the rest of the world in search of blood and skulls. The surviving Legio Metallica God engines also disengaged. The Titan's strength needed elsewhere to defend against the fresh waves of demon engines being flown in from Ilion, Nor was this danger restricted to Hub Beta Secundus. As the war raged across the surface of Amatel, Imperial counterattacks were being driven back or ground down by huge packs of newly forged demon engines. The traitors were receiving a steady stream of powerful reinforcements. The Imperial forces were not. By the inescapable arithmetic of war, it could only be a matter of time before the forces of chaos were victorious. Just as the Blood Angels' attack on the Demon Engines factory on Iolene Iolin, seemed doomed to costly failure, there came the manifestation of a mysterious power that has long aided Sanguinius' sons in the darkest hours. Blazing with golden light, the Sanguinor dropped from the storm-lashed heavens and rallied the Blood Angels. With the help of their avenging angel, the Blood Angels successfully destroyed the Hex Imperium, denying the traitors any further reinforcements of demon engines. As the Crimson Slaughter continued to bleed against the might of the valiant Blood Angels, the Chaos Lord Sorophas rejoiced as his machinations finally came to fruition. The sorcerer planned to use the slaughter and carnage on Amatel to help power the chaotic artifact known as the Banshee Stone, to create a vast warp rift that would drown the Diamor system in a veritable tidal wave of demons. The resulting destruction wreaked by the Neverborn would extend Abbadon the Despoiler's crimson path from Cadia to Diamor, and hopefully, one day, Terra itself. The Screaming Pit. In the wake of the Archangel's destruction of Ioline, the war for the Diamor system entered its final. Within solar hours of the Hex Imperium's destruction, word reached the Imperial leadership of combat escalating across the star system. Meanwhile, Chaos ground forces moved to strike the killing blow. The time had come for victory or death. Stirred to action by the destruction of Ioline, the Black Legion struck at Amatel directly. They concentrated their full force upon Hub Beta Secundus and the dark prize that lurked there. The Imperial forces had gathered to form a great noose, marshalling their strength before they struck the last blow to eradicate the Chaos threat once and for all. The plan belonged to Captain Aphael, whose own forces formed the southernmost element of the offensive. As one of the armies of the Imperium advanced across the burned-out kill zone that the Mechanicus had cleared so many solar weeks before, they charged into the blizzard of fire hurled from on high by the warships of the Black Legion. Barrage bombs sailed down to explode with enormous force, sending knights sprawling and turning squads of Skitarii to ash. Lance beams hammered Titan void shields or automized squads of assault marines. Yet though the bombardment was heavy and the destruction horrific, the Imperial forces did not slacken their pace. While battle raged on the planet below, vast warships dueled in the void high above. The adepts of the Adeptus Mechanicus understood the true prize that the Black Legion sought upon Amatel. Even if few others did. It was the thing that had brought techno-archaeologist Dominus Isvan Fon and his followers from the forward world of Metallica to this cursed planet. It was a power of unimaginable magnitude, though the Imperium and the traitors sought it for different reasons. Lord Sorphas knew its true nature, for it was he and his cabal who had located for Abbadon. The despoiler had set his forces in motion as soon as it had been identified. The battle to come would bear upon the success of the 13 Black Crusade, for it offered an opportunity to extend Abbadon's crimson path like a bloody wound across Imperial space. The secret that the Black Legion sought, and that the Adeptus Mechanicus were racing against them to seize, lay deep beneath the surface of Amatel. It was ancient, unimaginably so. Known as the Banshee Stone, it was a prison the size of a world, forged by godlike beings before Terra had even spawned its first single-celled organisms. It was a cage for infernal creatures of the warp, a demonic weapon to dwarf the damnation catch that had slipped through Abbadon's fingers on the world of Pandorax. And according to the divinations of the Chaos Lord Sorophas and his followers, it was full to the brim with howling demons. It required only the correct ritual to be broken open, at which point the sudden release of so many warp entities would tear a gaping wound in reality itself. When battle raged between the Blood Angels and the Black Legion, Sorophas, a potent Black Legion Chaos Sorcerer, arrived at the lip of the Warzone Carnage's main excavation site at Hub Beta Secundus. Their objective was the gate of the primordial demon cage. Thanks to the Crimson Slaughter, Lord Xorophas knew where the cage's wards were weakest and where its inmates' powers could leak through. Though the Blood Angels fought the force of chaos to a standstill and looked as if they would achieve inevitable victory, the heroes of the Blood Angels felt a terrible sense that they had been maneuvered into attacking too late. With their foes gone, the red-armored warriors rushed down the earth ramp and into the flickering depths of the excavation site. There they faced the screaming horror of the chaos artifact known as the Banshee Stone, a twisted crystal the size of a boarding torpedo around which blood was welling through the cracking bedrock in lapping tides. Though the ritual was not yet complete, Lord Xorophas realized that he was out of time. This would not be another Pandarax, however. The Banshee Stone had reached a terrible pitch of disharmony, and massive damage had been wrought upon the arcane wards that held the demon cage closed. It might not rupture immediately, but it would not last long. With a booming psychic command, the sorcerer ordered a retreat, abandoning the Banshee Stone to run on for as long as he could. Xorophas and his cabal stormed up the ramp that led out of the pit. Accompanied by black-armored Terminators, the sorcerer and his acolytes unleashed the full fury of their psychic might to drive back the Blood Angels, who rushed to meet them. With breathing space secured and a clear teleport lock established, the Black Legion was whisked away in a blaze of warp light, leaving its foes raging in its wake. On the planet's surface, the slaughter continued for many solar hours, before the last of the traitor's forces were destroyed. Only by the combined efforts of the librarian Asamael and his physically attuned brothers was the Banshee Stone's hideous laments silenced. By that time, the traitor fleet had scattered, making for predetermined retreat coordinates. The Blood Angels then extracted their force from Amatel's surface. In the solar hours that followed, the roaring blast waves swept across the planet's surface, obliterating all trace of chaotic industry on the planet, and leaving nothing but blackened, glowing ash in its wake. It took 7 solar days before the fury of the global firestorms burned down to fume and smoke, by which time the planet was little more than a ravaged shell. Destruction was unmanageable. But the Blood Angels had their victory and had dealt Xerophos' forces a dire blow. Of the Sanguinor there was no sign. Carlin himself had seen him escape the destruction of Ioline, a streak of gold soaring away into the heavens. When the hour was once again dark enough, he would return to aid his brothers. The Imperium believed they had won a great victory on Amatael, that they had foiled the despoiler's plans once again. But Librarian Asamael realized that the enemy had done more damage to the Banshee Stone than the Blood Angels had first realized. Perhaps defeat on Amatael had not been avoided, but merely delayed. Unknown to the Imperial forces, already, the cracks in the crystal that served as a demonic cage had spread beyond repair, even had anyone living known how to fix it. The energies of the Banshee Stone were no longer needed. It was just a matter of time before the sorcerer Xorophas and his followers completed their diabolical task. The bars of the demon cage would break. It was only a matter of time. In only a matter of time. Would break. Was only a matter of time. I don't know what the wiki says. As they gathered their forces, departed the system, and returned to Baal, the Blood Angels left behind Librarian Asamael and a squad of 10th Company scouts. These Blood Angels will remain on Asamael, attempting to gauge the true extent of the damage done, and standing watch when, the prison of the Banshee Stone threatened to break asunder.